Story 1. In high school, this kid would regularly pick his nose and eat it in class. He was also caught engaging in inappropriate behavior in the school library and on a school bus. He got suspended for a week and had to register as a sexual offender. Edit/update. He was 17, is no longer registered as a sexual offender, and was able to go to college. Story 2. For elementary school, I was that weird kid. I didn't talk until I was 5, and when I started, I had maybe a 20-word vocabulary and only spoke when spoken to for about 3 to 4 years. But at age 5, when I had just started talking, the local 10-year-old genius who was also our neighbor, he was actually a genius, graduated at 12 or something close, walked up to me and said, "The answer to every question can be found through observing," and then walked off. That's it. That is all he said. I, on the other hand, was and still am an absolute idiot. What I interpreted from what he said was, the answer to every question is observing. Now, I knew this kid had the smarts I didn't have, so I took what he said very seriously and unfortunately very literally. My parents were freaking out, my school had to call my parents multiple times, and eventually we had a big meeting that ended up landing me in therapy because for nearly a solid year, the only thing I ever said to anyone was observing. 2 times 2? Observing. What do you want for tea? Observing. What is on the television? Observing. Why are you such a stupid kid? Observing. Story 3. Well, there was Frog Boy. All he did was run around the woods catching lizards and frogs, raising tadpoles in a bucket, that kind of stuff. He had attention deficit disorder before it was a thing, so he was labeled active, and our teacher would sometimes just let him run out of the classroom to do a couple of laps. He was just crazy energetic, but all smiles. He superglued the woodshop tools to the wall and covered the school kitchen with flour. That kind of stuff. He went on to be a professional motocross rider. Story 4. At my middle school, someone decided to get a little attention with a good old-fashioned bomb threat. Except they thought that a bomb threat meant literally writing bomb threat somewhere. Worse yet, they misspelled it and wrote boom threat. So we had to go on a brief, very awkward lockdown while the police checked the perimeter for bombs. Story 5. The weird kid at my high school tied a string around his pencil case and pulled it around the halls, pretending it was a dog. He still lives in my hometown. I think he is unemployed. Oh, also, a weird girl in middle school acted like a cat. She would meow and hiss at people, lick the water fountain, and rub her body on the teacher's legs. In 8th grade. I have no idea where she ended up. Story 6. Had a kid nicknamed Cheeseburger in the grade ahead of me in high school. He got his nickname because when it was time for his class to go to lunch, he snuck into the roof and crawled his way into the cafeteria, dropped down, and proceeded to steal all the cheeseburgers put out for lunch. Unfortunately, they caught him in the act and sent him to the principal's office. A year later, he was caught stealing a teacher's computer, and in the process of being arrested, he bit the officer's hand, getting him sent to juvenile hall, never to be heard of again. Story 7. We had a guy who wore a dragon tail, believing he was a dragon, and a similar story for a different guy whose thing was wearing a cat bell. There were lots of rumors about the cat bell guy. Story 8. Showing us a video he uploaded to YouTube of him cutting his poop in half with a hanger as it was lying in the toilet bowl. Edit. Everyone asking for the video link. I'm sorry. I don't have the link and I'm too afraid to even attempt to find it on YouTube. Thinking about searching turd cutting in toilet bowl on YouTube seems dangerous. Story 9. He got mad that he didn't understand how to play a game at lunchtime, so he started hitting and punching the nearest person to him, who happened to be me. When I shoved him away and asked him what he was doing, he exposed himself, charged at me, and when I shoved him away from me again, he started crying and ran away with his members still exposed. Story 10. In 1st grade, there was this kid who stood by the sink in the back of the classroom eating bits of those brown paper towels. The teacher was constantly telling him to stop eating them and go back to his seat. Story 11. Weird kid in elementary was a self-proclaimed alien. Once, while waiting for the bus, she told me, "On my planet, we eat people like you," and proceeded to bite me. We later became friends in high school, and she used to give me massages during lunch break in the quad. Just realized now she was likely tenderizing me. Story 12. Had the strange kid in high school ask the teacher to use the bathroom. She said no, and this guy seriously stabbed his hand with a pencil. It went all the way through, then he asked if he could go now. It was wild. Additionally, this was at Pearl High School in Mississippi. This is the school where Luke Woodham shot and killed his girlfriend and her friend. This incident with the pencil happened about 2 months after that, in late 1997. Story 13. He did not say much, but if asked, he would go to the front of the class and perform Tiptoe Through the Tulips with all of the emotion and volume of Tiny Tim, holding nothing back. Story 14. A guy I knew in high school had a mouse living in his car. Not a pet mouse or anything, just a wild mouse. He would intentionally leave food in the back seat for it. I almost didn't believe it until I saw the thing run under the seat when he opened the door. He also wore this full cow suit to school one time, which freaked out an autistic kid who had a specific fear of cows. There was a lot of debate if he wore it to freak the kid out or if he wore it just to be weird. He's a youth pastor now. Story 15. Sharpened a pencil super sharp, loaded it into the recorder, covered all the holes, and blew it at another kid. The pencil went between his eyeball and socket, so fortunately, he kept his sight. Similarly, after I switched schools, this happened before I arrived, so I didn't actually see it. A girl used adhesive putty to stick a short and very sharp pencil on a kid's seat. He sat on it, and it punctured the skin right next to his anus, then perforated his rectum. He needed emergency surgery. Story 16. When the teacher told him to sit down, he screamed, "Forget you, cow." Fast forward 2 years, he tells everyone he's a vampire and stabs my friend with a pen to try to make him bleed. He was weird like that. Story 17. I had this weird kid in my class who was otherwise okay, but just would do really unexplainable stuff. He once opened his lunchbox in class and threw the contents right onto the overhead ceiling fan. It was something liquid and greenish. It hit the spinning fan, splashed down all over us, the walls and the board. The poor teacher got the worst rain down on his face. As a punishment, the entire class was made to clean the classroom. Surprisingly, we were not mad at him. We all had a good laugh at it. Story 18. One girl used to run or gallop around the playground on her own, pretending she was a horse. This is at too old an age for the rest of us to be doing this, think 14 or 15. She got a medicine degree and is doing her surgical training at the moment. I bumped into her in a hospital after over a decade. All I could think of to say was, "Do you still love horses?" She laughed and said she had her own horse now. Figures. Story 19. Said absolutely nothing to anyone besides, "I like cows," for about a month. Anything you said to him, regardless of the context or situation, "I like cows." Story 20. The list is endless, but one incident sticks out in my mind. The boy was getting told off by the teacher, and instead of taking it on the chin, he decided to jump on the table, shout, "I'm out of here," and proceed to run full speed into a steel beam that was supporting the roof. Knocked himself out cold. It was a fun lesson by all accounts. Story 21. He drove around the basketball courts, following the lines on an imaginary bus. He would stop to let people get on or off the bus and then drive them to their stops, and we walked in a line behind him. When he stopped walking, he would mimic the door opening and closing and would not let you on or off if you did not wait for the signal. Salutations, Ben the bus driver. I hope you achieved your dreams. To clear it up, this was in Australia, and he was between the ages of 8 and 13 when I knew him. We all got on the bus because when no one did, he would drive around looking sad. He did this all the time, not just once and not sporadically. Anytime he was outside, he was imitating a bus driver. Story 22. He once asked me to play spies with him. Knowing he didn't play with many people, I said yes. He took me on a mission around the school before coming to a stop in front of some bushes, pulling his pants all the way down and then started peeing in the bushes. At that point, I was out. Story 23. In 4th grade, one kid got so angry at something, maybe the work we were doing, he gripped his pencil as hard as he could, started yelling and moaning, and stuck the sharp end of the pencil square into his forehead. Story 24. He brought a blow-up doll to our farewell dance, senior prom in the United States, as his date, complete with fishnets and everything. Edit, he was also wearing a kilt. We are not from Scotland. Story 25. This was in 1996 to 1997. We had a bomb threat and all had to go to the football stadium. One of the special education kids that had Down syndrome started the Macarena and had the entire school going. And then this one kid that dressed weird ran out on the field with his friend in front of everyone and they started kissing. This was 1996 to 1997, so it started a huge mess. People were trying to beat him up, and the administrators had to take them away. Meanwhile, there were still some people trying to keep the Macarena alive. It was a strange day. Story 26. I dated the weird kid in high school and even a few years after, and the weirdest thing he did was try to date his cousin while we were together. He also ate grass, and he and his friends would talk about the flesh planet. I hated my life back then. I should have elaborated that she wasn't his biological cousin, but she was his cousin by marriage until the divorce. They were raised as cousins, and she was introduced to me by him and his family as a cousin. Also, his whole family knew and supported it and acted like I was crazy and that I was ridiculous for being mad about it. His father, in particular, said he wanted him to be with her so that they could have white babies. I'm black, and so is my mom, he kept trying to get with. Yes, we live in the South. The rest of the family, however, was obsessed with the fact that we would have beautiful mixed babies. I had serious low self-esteem, low standards, and serious abandonment issues due to traumas in my life at that time, and everyone questioned why I was with him, even our teachers, but I really try not to judge people. Story 27. The unusual kid in my school, who was also a friend of mine, had really bad dry scalp during the winter months. He would vigorously rub his hair to get some relief from the itchiness and, in the process, would end up with lots of dead skin on his desk. One girl looked over as he was doing this and loudly said, "You," wanting to make a statement. He gathered up all the dead skin in a line-shaped pile and snorted it like it was a massive line of cocaine. He was kicked out of class. Story 28. There was a girl who pretended to be a horse and made horse noises. She also drew pictures of all the guys' faces in detention with their bodies as half goat or horse, with very detailed male genitalia. She was a really good artist. Story 29. Interestingly enough, this weird kid was actually really well liked by people at school. He was on the track team and was an insanely fast distance runner. We were pretty good friends in high school and we went to the same summer fine arts camp every year. The funniest thing he ever did was in geometry class freshman year. Our teacher was explaining planes to us and how because 3 points always form a plane, a three-legged table will never wobble. Cue the weird kid standing up. Challenge accepted. Next Monday, he comes in dragging a giant table into class. Over the weekend, he had built a table with 3 legs and springs between the flat tabletop and the legs so that if you put a glass on it, it would wobble and fall over. Our teacher found it so funny that he kept the table in his classroom for the whole year. Story 30. My old art teacher told our class a bunch of stories about weird things kids did in her class through the years before she retired. Before she worked at our school, she worked as an English teacher at the juvenile court school. All of the kids there had issues, but there was this one kid who really stood out to her. She was assigned to teach him, but the catch was that he had to be in solitary in order to be taught. She was also told that he needed to be watched at all times because he always tried to escape class and usually was successful. When she taught him, there was a guard posted at the door, the windows were locked and boarded up, and the door was kept locked. The only things in the room were his desk, his chair, and her desk, so that he couldn't hide either. Apparently, he was also extremely good at that. The first time she had to teach this kid, they were put in a solitary room, but it had a closet. The kid went missing, and about 3 hours later, they found him taking a nap at the bottom of the closet. They missed him the first time they checked there. Another time she had to teach him. This time the room did not have a closet or any other visible places he could hide. She left the room for something, probably to go to the bathroom, and when she got back, the kid was gone. The guard was there the whole time and the room was basically sealed. There was no way he could have gotten out. Once again, there were also no places he could really hide. The school went on lockdown while they tried to find this kid. About 2 hours passed, and they finally found the kid when he pushed away the paneling on the wall of the classroom and stepped out to casually ask if he could go to the bathroom. This kid opened up the wall and climbed inside to hide, causing no one to be able to find him for hours. Story 31. Okay, so I had a kid at my school who wasn't particularly bad but just annoyed me because I was the only one nice to him. He would follow me everywhere, randomly grab me for no reason, hug me, and not give me any personal space. But here comes the worst part. We have school swimming lessons, and you could either get changed in the changing rooms or the toilets and showers. Since I am a shy person, I would always use the showers to get changed. He followed me in there, got dressed outside my door, and just when I was leaving my cubicle, he was there, dancing naked. I died inside that day,